Another win for the Lions, another step closer to that test team. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Another decent display from the Lions. Again, not perfect, but I think it was definitely a step forward from the Waratahs game. And, there's obviously things need to be worked on as well ahead of the test, but I think certainly the team are moving in the right direction. So let's talk about what happened in the game, and then we'll talk about players and stats and stuff like that. So to start off, first off, Sheehan, gets pinged for blocking a kick chase, and Brumbies kick the ball to the corner. They move it from the line out, and they've got penalty advantage. Comes into nothing, so they go back into the corner. They then work it up to the line, pick and goes, Lions holding them out, but then they've been kind of creeping infield. Then they go to the blind side, another pick and go, and it's Ty Tuilima gets it down on the line. Conversions missed, 5 points to nil, but a great start from the Brumbies. From here, then, the Lions keeping the ball for a bit, and when we have a break in play, Blair Kinghorn has to get some treatment. He does stay on for a bit longer, maybe another, 15 minutes or so, but eventually has to go off. Doesn't look, right when he's gone off, basically his body language. So not good from that point of view, and I think he's going to be an absolutely, massive loss to the team as well. When you think about, Keenan not in form at the minute, and Kinghorn looked like a shoe-in to be 15 for the test, so hopefully he recovers in time. But from the way he went off, it looks like maybe, and then he appeared with ice as well on his knee later, so maybe not for him. Maybe his tour isn't over, I don't know at this stage, but maybe not going to be there for the first test. So Marcus Smith, come on for him. Maybe that's his way into the starting team, depending on how Keenan goes on Saturday. But also, I've seen today that Osborne has been called up as cover. Don't expect him to be forcing his way into the test team or anything for the first test, but he's definitely a player. If he's asked to step in some capacity, he can he can deliver. But that's the same for everyone in the squad and anyone who's been called up since the start of the tour as well. So the Lions, I think, fairly lucky, or not necessarily luck, but certainly an embarrassment of riches there. But it doesn't mean doesn't matter how many great players they have not on tour, right? But yeah, sad for Kinghorn if it is going to be the end of his tour, because for me, he was definitely the starting 15. From here then, Brumbies looking to run it out of their own 22, but they knock on a contact. Scrum in a decent position for the Lions. The scrum is really strong, driving forward, and they decide move the ball out. Aki a step, and then a really good carry to within 5 meters or so out. Recycled, Sheehan goes close, then they recycle again, and Russell puts Chesham over. Conversion missed, 5 points all. The Lions back in the game. From here then, Sheehan goes in a storming run down the right touchline. Brilliant fend, and then an offload before the Brumbies could see the penalty. Russell kicks them into the 22, around the edge of the 22. Brumbies then ping for playing the 9, and the Lions kick to the corner. They then go to the maul, which is halted, so they put it through the hands. Low goes over in the left corner. We have a TMO check. On field is held up, no try. Nothing clear or obvious, in terms of the replays. So on-field decision obviously has to stand. And just really great defence from Moorhead there. He actually got his leg under the ball, preventing the grounding. Now, you might be able to argue, oh, maybe he has a sliver of the ball down, but if you can't see it on the screen, and you've had that on-field call, which for me, given what the referee and the officials could see, was absolutely correct, well, you can't be given a try on a maybe. From here then, the Lions back into 22, but as James Gibson Park snipes, Lonergan gets over the ball to win a penalty for the Brumbies. Thought the Brumbies were very good at that, isolating players and winning those penalties or turnovers. Freeman then gets over the ball to win a penalty for the Lions. Russell's kicks him back into 22. They produce then one of their best pieces of play. Russell finding Aki. He gives it on to Ringrose. Ringrose really challenges the line with a good carry out to Conan, and Conan puts Lowe over in the corner, converted for 12 points to 5. Lonergan then, as the Brumbies respond, really nice kick from him, puts it in behind the Lions defence, makes him turn, bounces, about maybe 10 metres out from the Lions line, and then tricky line out for them. They go over the top to Conan. He secures it in in midfield. Then they come back blindside. I don't know who it was that carried, but the Brumbies again getting over the ball to win a penalty. Now they kick to the corner. Shaw then claims a line out. Maul collapsed illegally by the Lions, but the Brumbies with penalty advantage, they move it left. Lovely long pass out to Toole. He's got plenty of space out there and goes over in the corner. And I think I agree with the guys in commentary. Marcus Smith maybe a little bit out of position defensively there for that, and just give him too much space. Conversion missed, 12 points to 10. Lions now back to a narrow lead. Brumbies then, they kick, it's pretty much half time, right? And they kick a goal line dropout short into their own 22. It's won by the Lions. There was some claims for knock-ons, but basically it was if there was a knock-on, it was from the Brumbies, I think, and everything for the Lions is backwards. But a bit crazy there. But Ringrose with a good carry. Russell then with lovely involvement as well off him. He finds Curry, who puts Marcus Smith over to score, convert for 19 points to 10, and that's half time. Into the second half then, Lions attack from a line out. Move the ball quickly. Russell to Ringrose. He sells a dummy, goes through a hole, gives it to Marcus Smith, and then Smith with a lovely little weighted kick in behind, and Ringrose wins the race to dot down. And, he had Gibson Park there with him. Gibson Park, they were mentioning that he was basically telling them, listen, I'm not a defender. You're okay. You're going to get to the ball first. Converted by Russell for 26 points to 10. Brumbies then have a good spell, working into 22, put in a decent kick that forces Freeman to carry it over his own line. He pops a pass to Gibson Park, who's not on the same wavelength as him at all. Ball pings off Gibson Park back to Freeman, and Freeman gets caught behind the line. But Gibson Park, probably or definitely the more to blame with that one. But it was just a really super kick as well to put them in that position. So it's a 5 metre scrum for the Brumbies. Decent scrum from them as well. The Lions have had the kind of the nudge in the scrum for most of the game, but this one they're pretty solid. And Ringrose then, comes under with the rush defence, and Freeman drifts and, ends up, there's a gap there, and the Brumbies are able to exploit that space. Crichton, gets over to score, converted for 26 points to 17. Lions then with a line out close to the line. They go to the maul. It's going forward, but Brumbies are disrupting well. So, the Lions go over. We have a TMO check. On field is no try held up, and there's no evidence to change that call again. So Lions, I think, could be frustrated with the number of times they're getting held up over the line. Russell then with a smart kick into the corner as the Lions look to pin the Brumbies in their own 22. Brumbies claim the line out and are able to clear despite further pressure from the Lions. But, the pressure isn't going away. Back come the Lions. They have penalty advantage in front of the sticks. It comes to nothing, so Russell stretches the lead to 29 points to 17. Lions then to the corner from another penalty. They catch and drive the line out, and over the go. Van der Fleer at the back is the score. And, that was probably the most efficient the Lions have been with their maul. Certainly in this game are probably on tour. Converted from out wide by Russell, 36 points to 17. Brumbies then winning penalties into 22. Lions are keeping them out, but they get a warning for the number of penalties that they are conceding. Brumbies tap a penalty 5 minutes out right in front of the post. Looks like they're gonna, get held up, but I thought they did really well to get that ball back out, and then Bowron gets over the score, converted from 36 points to 24. And yeah, it really was good kind of, determination from Brumbies not to get held up there. And the Lions maybe could learn something from that as well. Lions then with a late chance as they drive from a line out into 22, but they knock on as they go to ground. Then Hooper gets a yellow card for a deliberate knock on with a clock in the red, and the Lions attack into 22. A couple of phases later, the Lions think they've scored, but it's ruled out after a TMO check. And then that was a full-time score, 36 points to 24. So it's a decent performance from the Lions, but certainly things to work on. Ball security definitely is one. The Brumbies got over that ball too often and too easily at times as well. So they're definitely going to have to sort it out. And then, getting held up over the line as well. The accuracy is coming. It's not quite there as well in terms of, there was some passes that went into touch, didn't go to hand, whatever as well. When you could see that they'd found space, but they just weren't able to execute. So certainly all of that has to be worked on. Let's have a look at the stats, and then we'll come back and we will talk about each of the Lions players after that. So let me pull the stats up here on the site here. Hang on. Where are we here? There we are, match stats. Okay, so first off, tries, 5 tries to 4 in favour of the Lions. So, the closest they kind of been on tour in terms of the try count. And, Brumbies certainly well worth their 4 tries in the game as well. It was six tries to 4, not 5. Then in terms of possession, overall, it was 57 to 43 in favour of the Lions, and kind of stayed that way between the two halves, like 57-43 first half, 56-44 in the second half, so no big swing. And then territory 61 to 39 in favour of the Lions. It was 64-36 first half, and Brumbies a little bit more in the second half, where it was 58-42. So, generally on the tour, we've seen the Lions actually kind of pulling away in the second half, but the Brumbies actually came back in this one. Clean breaks then, 4 for the Brumbies, 6 for the Lions, and that's from 12 defenders beaten for the Brumbies and 26 for the Lions. So, 1 in 3 conversion rate for the Brumbies is pretty decent, and then the Lions are kind of 1 in 4.5 or so for them. So, certainly been better on tour in terms of that. Offloads then, 2 for the Brumbies, 8 for the Lions. The Lions with some really good turnovers in the build-up to tries as well. Thinking especially like Curry to Smith for his try was really good, but a lot of tries actually had offloads in the build-up as well. Rooks then shows you that the Lions ball security not that great, because 97% for the Brumbies, 93 for the Lions. And you think it's in the 90s, it's not bad, but a 4% difference between the teams is actually pretty big, especially at this level. So, the Brumbies certainly the better of the two teams in that regard. And then mauls, both teams 100%, Brumbies 2 from 2 and Lions 7 from 7. Turnovers conceded then, 11 for the Brumbies, 16 for the Lions. And again, a lot of those turnovers were the Brumbies being able to get in there and either, snaffle that ball or win penalties. Then let's have a look at kick, pass, run. So meters run, 199 for the Brumbies, 427 for the Lions. Kicks from hand, 26 for the Brumbies and 21 for the Lions. So the Lions actually kicking less than we've seen them for a lot of the tour. Passes then 121 to 177 and runs 86 to 137. So the Lions actually keeping the ball in hand more in this one. We saw the forwards doing a lot of that kind of hard carrying, and then we saw those combinations start to come together as well, where, it felt like they felt more comfortable with ball in hand in this one. And I think that's why we saw them kicking less. But also, I think part of it was, Kinghorn going off, in terms of the actual kicking. A lot of kicking then was coming from 9, from Gibson Park, and there were contestables as well. The Lions are doing pretty well in that regard. Then let's have a look at the set piece. So in terms of scrums, the Brumbies went 5 from 5 and the Lions went 5 from 7. So looking at those stats, you'd think that the Brumbies were the better of the two scrums, but it was definitely the Lions. And then lineouts, then Brumbies 15 from 17 and Lions 19 from 19. So I think I'm right in saying that it's the second game in a row that the Lions have gone 100% in the lineout, at least 2 games in a row. So that's really good, because we saw that game against Argentina and at the start of the tour in Australia as well didn't look all that secure. So they've really worked on that, and it has come on brilliantly for them. And set piece, I have to say, is in a really good position now. Obviously Australia are going to really test that, and that's the kind of thing that can happen, is you think something's working for you, you go into the first test, and suddenly it's the problem that the opposition attacked and you weren't expecting it. So we'll see what happens there. In terms of then tackles, the Brumbies with 85% tackle success, Lions with 91 is absolutely amazing. As well, when you think like they had shooters coming up, obviously Ringrose for Ireland and for the Lions seems to have a license to shoot out a line, but we saw other players doing it as well. We saw Russell doing it on a couple of occasions as well, and I think that's why he had a poor tackle success ratio on this. I think like 1 out of 3, I think, but they were kind of shooting up, putting pressure on, rather than actually trying to get the tackle, but that wasn't the main thing for it. Then in terms of discipline, yellow cards, 1 for the Brumbies, that one right at the end. And then penalties conceded, the 11 each for them. And, that's kind of the way the game went as well. There weren't kind of bursts of penalties given away by teams. There were obviously times when both teams did get warnings, and, we had a yellow card for Brumbies right to death, but there weren't kind of lots of kind of concerted, periods where one team were just absolutely under the cosh and giving away, 4, 5, 6 penalties in a row. It was kind of mixed in between the teams all throughout. Okay, so now let's have a look at the players and player stats. So we'll go down through the team. So starting with Blair Kinghorn. So hang on, let me actually pull up the other one. There's there. Okay. Yeah, so starting with Blair Kinghorn. So, while he was on the field, 3 runs for 2 meters, no tackles made, and, it doesn't look good for him, honestly. In terms of this performance, I'm not going to, it's hard to kind of rate him on the performance because the guy got injured very early. He was brave to stay out, but, he had to go off in the end, and, fingers crossed they can get him back at some stage, but it's honestly not looking good. But for me, he would have been the starting 15, I think, in the test if fit. Next then, Tommy Freeman. So Tommy Freeman, 8 runs, 22 meters, and then 4 from 5 tackles from him as well. No tries this time, but we know if he does get opportunities, he's going to finish them. And, for me, he's a starting right winger. And, before this game, people were saying this is probably going to be the test side or very close to it. And it's kind of hard to argue with any of the picks. Honestly, there obviously are. I'm not saying that there's no room for debate. I'm just saying that there was nobody kind of picked in this 15 that you would have said definitely shouldn't be anywhere near the test team. You could argue 4 different combinations together, certainly starting the test, but I don't think in terms of just saying, oh, that guy absolutely shouldn't be near the test team. I think, it looks fairly close to a test team. Next then, Gary Ringrose. So for him, 9 runs, 37 meters, 1 try, 10 from 12 tackles. A pretty good outing from him. He's looking sharp now, and he got a try, but also in terms of just making others shine as well. I thought he did that very well today. Then Bundy Aki there at 12. So 9 runs, 21 meters, carrying hard. Bundy Aki, brilliant at that. One thing I would criticize him for is maybe, his awareness of his support and then the sympathy on his pass as well. I think he threw one pass to James Lowe into touch, and we've seen kind of maybe one of those per game almost, from him. So, but then five from 5 tackles, what you're going to get from Bundy, and he's going to get you over the gain line pretty much every time he carries. Very solid in the defense as well. So, but for me, it looks like, given that they were picked for this, that this is maybe the starting test centre combination. But I've said all along, I'd be happy, with these guys, or put in, Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones together as well. 4 outstanding centres, and those combinations work really well. So, I'm whichever set of the centres they picked, I'm not going to complain. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see them kind of, changed up through the test series as well, and everybody's kind of gonna get a go. Next then, left wing, James Lowe. So got himself a try, 12 runs, 59 meters, 1 from 1 tackle as well. Fairly decent game from him. Got held up over the line once, could have had maybe 2 tries, but his try came not long after he got held up anyway. So it's kind of debatable whether both opportunities, if you had to score the first one, maybe the second opportunity doesn't actually come about. But yeah, a decent performance from him. And again, I think probably the starting left winger. Then Finn Russell, nailed on for 10, obviously. 9 runs for 5 meters. One from 3 tackles, as I said, but it doesn't really tell the story. The guy is such a great facilitator. Kicking was spot on as well. So, and that's going to be important in the tests as well. It's going to be tighter in the tests, and every point is going to count. But yeah, another really good game from him, and just showing why he is the standout 10 on the tour. Next then, James Gibson Park at 9, 6 runs, 29 meters, 4 from 5 tackles from him. And as I said, a lot of kicking come from him. Really good kind of up and unders, giving his team a chance to chase the ball down. And also, just that speed of getting the ball away as well. I think, if he's not that as fast as that, the Brumbies maybe turn over a bit more ball than they did. As I said, the Brumbies, did a very good job at the breakdown, but without Gibson Park, it might have been even better. Into the pack then. So Ellis Genge, 4 runs, 5 meters, 6 from 7 tackles, carried really hard, always looking as well for work, not kind of shying away, went really good in the set piece too. And for me, definitely the starting loose head. I like the idea of, him starting and bringing Porter on later on, because talked about it lots of times before. If Porter starts and the referee decides he, for whatever reason that, scrum's collapsing or his fault, then it's very hard for him to recover, to change things around, and it affects his overall game as well. So if you start Genge, bring Porter on when maybe the Lions, I don't know, whether, the Lions are going to have scrum dominance or parity or whatever, but at least when Porter is coming on, the referee doesn't have in his head, this guy is the problem, which happens a lot for Porter, in recent years. So Ellis Genge, I thought was excellent. Dan Sheehan, absolutely outstanding in this game. 8 runs, 44 meters. It's great that they can get him into wide channels, and, he has the pace to be out there, and also the strength to make sure, he's not going to get bundled into touch as well. 10 from 10 tackles. Set piece went really well. I think, that's one part of his game that has really improved over the last kind of year or so, because he's always had that kind of around the field, plays kind of like a winger or a centre when you need him to, but as well doesn't, shy away from doing the hard carries as well. But, the set piece was maybe the iffy part about him. And, he would get picked because he's so good around the field rather than being a very good all-around hooker, I would say. But I think he's improved scrummaging and his lineouts as well. And that's really elevated him to another level. He's obviously got to keep that going in the tests where they're going to be under immense pressure as well. But looking good and certainly the starting two. Don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Furlong then 5 runs, 4 meters, 7 from 7 tackles, looking a lot fitter now. And that's really good sign for the Lions, So it looks like he's going to be probably the starting prop in the test, and then Stewart and Beelum are kind of fighting out for who's going to be on the bench, I think, at this stage. Then the locking partnership, Maro Itoje, captain, another captain's performance from him, 7 runs, 60 meters, 10 from 10 tackles, led really well, got in there. Every time like the Brumbies were putting up contestable kicks near their own line, he was up there disrupting, like that try towards where the Brumbies right before half time did that short kick out. I'm pretty sure he was the guy that got up there to disrupt and make sure the ball come back on the line side. He does that so often. Really brilliant player. He's the kind of player where, if you're an Ireland, like I'm an Ireland fan, obviously if you're an Ireland fan watching him for England, you don't like him because maybe attitude, but also the fact that he is a brilliant player and can kind of ruin your day. But then when he's on your team, when you're cheering for the Lions, you absolutely love him. And, again, I think he's been brilliant and well deserved of his captaincy as well. Beside him then, Joe McCarthy. So we talked previously about, whether these two guys are going to be picked together. They got picked together in this one and it worked really well too. 5 runs, 13 meters. Always gives you go forward, 9 from 9 tackles as well. So good both sides of the ball. Did really well in the set pieces as well. And I think the extra grunt in the scrum really has kind of paid dividends as well with himself and Itoje in there. And the fact also that, they've obviously got Chesham behind them too. Has been brilliant for them. So for me, yeah, definitely the locking partnership for the test. Then we come on to Ollie Chesham at 6. So before the tour, I would have said, if you're going to play a lock at 6, it's going to be Tadhg Beirne. But for me, Chesham has been the better of the two on the tour. In this game, 1 try, 9 runs, 21 meters, 8 from 9 tackles. Again, grunt in the scrum, and another line-out option as well. Very busy around the park, and yeah, for me, definitely ahead of Beirne in terms of starting in the test. I think Beirne now has a bit of a fight to actually get on the bench, honestly. Then 7, Tom Curry. So maybe not standing out as much as other players on the tour, but this was a good performance from him. 4 runs for 5 meters, 8 from 10 tackles. He gave that assist for the Marcus Smith try as well, and all around pretty good. I'm pretty sure that he won some turnovers for the Lions as well. And the thing is, if you're going to make a change to this back row, maybe it would be him coming out and you bring in Jack Morgan. But again, I'd have no complaints if Curry was picked in there. Morgan can give you something else. It's just about what kind of balance they're looking for in the back row there. But he certainly hasn't been poor or bad or whatever. It wouldn't be a case, for me at least, it wouldn't be a case of you don't pick him from the test because he's not playing well enough. It would be more a case of we want more of what Jack Morgan can give us, and we're going to put him in. So it's kind of horses for courses, as it were. But I think Curry certainly, if he gets picked, he deserves it. Then Jack Conan there at 8. So 17 runs, 76 meters, just showing really what he can do with the ball. 13 from 14 tackles, just immense display from him, and definitely for me the nailed on number 8 for the tests. Onto then the bench. So you got Rona Kelleher there. didn't really see much of the ball, but he did make 3 from 4 tackles. And, it's a case really, with the hookers, himself and Cowan-Dickey really, again, kind of finding out for that position on the bench. And both have been decent on the tour. So again, wouldn't mind, I've got obviously I'm Irish, so I will have an unconscious bias towards Irish players. But honestly, whichever one gets picked on the bench, I'm fine with. Cowan-Dickey has been good all tour, and I wouldn't have any complaints. Then, loose head Andrew Porter. I think he is going to be the bench loose head for the test. 6 runs, 18 meters, 8 from 8 tackles. And for me, he looks better coming off the bench. Leinster actually did a thing with him, for a number of games this season where they actually brought him on after 20 minutes. And it seemed to work well. I don't think the Lions will do that, but I wouldn't be surprised if, he's on the bench in the test. We see him shortly after half time, maybe. Will Stewart there then, 1 run, didn't really make, many meters with it. Then 3 tackles from 3. But again, overall on the tour, himself and Beelum, I think, have both done enough to put their name in the hat really for selection for a bench spot. And again, wouldn't have a complaint about either of them. Then, Josh van der Fleer. So, 1 try, 3 runs, 2 meters, 6 from 6 tackles. And I think at this stage, he's probably, I could be wrong, but I don't think he's going to start 7 in the test, but I do think he's done enough to certainly be on the bench and to give an option from the bench as well. Henry Pollock there then. So he come on 4 runs, 23 meters, 2 from 2 tackles. And I think he's one that probably will be on the bench as well. But then if you're putting both Van der Fleer and Pollock on the bench, you've got to have maybe a bit of grunt on there as well. So that's where I could see Byrne maybe being the replacement lock on the bench, possibly. We'll have to see how that comes out. But, again, Pollock has done well, but there's so much competition in the back row. If you're not starting Jack Morgan, do you want to put him on the bench? And if you put him on the bench, then is it Van der Fleer or is it Pollock that you're leaving off the bench as well? So many tough selections. Then we got Alex Mitchell there. Didn't get much game time. 1 run, didn't make any tackles, but we've seen him do well this tour. Obviously, Ben White has come along as well, as a replacement. But again, no complaints about who's going to be the replacement. Gibson Park for me is definitely the starter, and Mitchell can do a decent job off the bench. Then 22 Marcus Smith. So 1 try, 5 runs, 21 meters, 1 from 1 tackle there, and I think now with Kinghorn possibly being out that he's definitely going to be in the 23 for the test, because I think you might actually see both Smiths, Finn Smith and Mark Smith, on the bench. I think it depends on who else they want to have on the bench. If you're not putting, let's say you start Jones and Tuipulotu, you might have Ringrose on the bench because he can cover so many positions. So that 23 spot is going to be very coveted. But I think Marcus Smith has a chance maybe starting 15 for the test, depending on how Keenan goes in his next game. And then finally, Mac Hansen, 2 runs, 3 meters, 2 from 2 tackles. A fairly kind of solid display from him. But I think not his best game the last time he started, and kind of played himself out of the team for me. And I think Freeman is going to be the starting right winger. Obviously, depending on how results go or injuries, he might come back into the reckoning later on. Test 2 or 3 or whatever. But I don't see him being on the bench for a test, because if you're looking at the bench, obviously you're going to have cover for 9 and 10 now, because if you've got no Kinghorn, a fullback, so you don't have that kind of ability to say, okay, well, we've got cover on the field already for 10, so we don't need specialist cover on the bench. So I think that means you're probably going to have, it's probably going to be Mitchell and Finn Smith on the bench, 21 and 22. And then depending on whether they go a 6-2 split, that might be it, right? They might be 22-23. Or if you're going for 3 backs on the bench, a 5-3 split, then number 23 has got to cover more positions than I think Mac Hansen can. Obviously, you can stick him in other positions, as emergency cover, and he might do a decent job. But in terms of players who have that ability to move around the back line a bit more comfortably, I think there are better ones in the squad than that. And, and you're looking at maybe your Marcus Smiths or, as I said, Gary Ringrose maybe there as well. And again, depending on, what the starting combinations are, that kind of thing as well. But decent win for the Lions. They've now got, Saturday they've got the Australia and New Zealand invitational side, and then we're into the tests after that. So, it's obviously these Lions tours are getting shorter and shorter, and it feels like it's weird. Like it feels like the test is only getting, the tour is only getting going. And now the tests are pretty much almost upon us. It just feels crazy that way. But I think Lions have built up well. There's still work to do, around ball security. Their execution close to the line as well, making sure you get that ball down, and then being able to actually take the opportunities they create as well. Still some loose passes, players maybe not running quite the right lines, that kind of thing. But all of that can be fixed. But obviously, we've seen it before with these kind of things as well. Things that you think are going well. So Seppi's going really well at the minute. Could be an issue. We saw earlier in the tour as well that restarts were an issue for them too. Seem to have fixed that, but that could come and raise its head again in the test as well. So, for me, been a really good tour so far, and looking forward to the next game. Let me know what you think down in the comments.